in singing a song to Creator God. Mend me, bring me together, heal me, bring me together, mend me, bring me together. You know, that story of the tortoise, it just is in our scriptures too. If you look at it from a different perspective, here's the stories that I thought of. Joseph being thrown into the pit by his own brothers. Became the ruler of all that Egypt had. He was the banker. Wow. He even saved his entire family from sure starvation. How much more of a story like the tortoise could there be? You know, to see it in Joseph. And to see Ruth and Mordecai, under terrible oppression, survive and become important and ruling parts of the government, even among a very aggressive foreign power. You could even say the story of Paul and Silas is like that in the jail. Or the man that was helped by the Good Samaritan. All of those stories that we find in the scripture can also be looked at through the perspective of the tortoise's story. We are not so far apart. It is a different perspective, one centered in the natural world, so that those stories could apply to any human situation. That's why those stories fit so many things. They had the insight to know that what they observed in nature was happening in their hearts. Over the centuries, indigenous people of the Americas formed cultures and societies that understood their total reliance on the natural world. That's all they had. It is not true that all these people were migratory and lived in teepees. It is not true that most were naked and ignorant. It is not true that these tribal groups lived in isolation. What is true is that the nations who occupied our continents had extensive and complicated societies and relied mostly on local products, although some had wide-ranging travel routes and that took them to faraway places and cultures. It is true that each local group had their own customs and beliefs that in general could be characterized as centered in a strong respect and understanding of the natural world and a Creator God who was partners with them and bringing good to the peoples. It is also true that not all native cultures were destroyed by their interactions with European invaders, but were forever changed, and some ceased to exist except in the stories that are still told today, like the tortoise story. Unlike the tortoise, people groups are being drawn together and are experiencing healing. Creator God is still the center of many native ceremony, although deep and festering wounds are very much evident in those peoples. The Psalm speaks to me and reminds me that David's total reliance on God, even though he was a king, is a story of hope and a source of healing. It is a reminder to me, and I hope to you, of the many perspectives that exist in our world. Just as David tried to honor his religious heritage, we too have those to look back on who exercised faith and held strongly to Jesus' teachings, especially the Christian church, disciples of Christ. They were fighting against all odds to become a community of faith. In fact, I stand here in front of the symbol of their persistence. A persistent belief that communion is experienced best when all believers respond to the invitation to the Lord's table, to come and be one as God is one. I will be inviting all of you, if you want to join, in a few teaching sessions to enter the Lodge of Understanding. So more people in the church and our community can learn about Native people and advocate for them as they struggle to honor their heritage and the Creator God. We will begin offering special events and discussion sessions around the beginning of August. But I will be glad to answer your questions and offer material as I begin a path of discovery with you and for you. We disciples who meet at the Christian church have a rich heritage and a thirst for knowledge to understand the scriptures and to understand other people groups, to work ecumenically for social justice, and to take the gospel from our doorstep to all the world. Please join me in prayer as I endeavor to use the resources I have been given to honor my calling to reframe the gospel in our current context. Let us pray.